S.O.B by making special brownies. Now let me give you some reference. My grandma is currently undergoing dialysis and everyone around me knows I smoke. It's never been a secret that I smoke, so on to the story. Granted, this was yesterday. Regardless, I was making some THC brownies for myself yesterday around 7 p.m, some extra strong ones for my somewhat high tolerance. I get a call during baking saying my grandma has been in an accident, so I turn the oven off and rush out the house. I get to the accident and do the same mumbo-jumbo and exchange info, but my grandma's car wasn't drivable, so I figure I have to call her insurance and get the car towed. So the house is only 5-minute drive from the house, so I take her home to rest and so that I can handle everything and she's not in the cold. An hour or two go by and my mom arrives at the accident scene. We proceed to wait at the accident while I'm on the phone with insurance, still trying to get a tow out to me. While we're here, I let my mom know, "Hey, I'm making special brownies, please let grandma and other mom at home know so they don't eat it." She proceeds to call them and let them know not to eat my brownies, falling to mention their THC brownies. So then we decide we're gonna move the car to a safe location and go home and wait for the tow truck. We get home and I'm starting to take the brownies out of the oven and my mom decides she wants to try a piece. I tell her no 3 different times and she keeps on insisting and eventually eats a piece. I honestly don't think too much about it and go downstairs to talk to the insurance to see how long it takes, and another hour goes by. The insurance tells me it's gonna take another 30 minutes, so we finally go out back to the accident and wait for the tow truck driver. 30 minutes go by and my mom looks at me and says, "I think it's hitting me." I look over at her and tell her she'll be okay, just keep watching your show. She tells me she wants to go to sleep, so I tell her it'll be alright, I can handle the tow truck driver, just sleep. We finally get the car home and my mom is running into the house throwing up. I go over to my mom and her wife is helping her out while I try and get the car parked into a spot in front of our house. We finally get everything settled and my mom into bed. While I'm downstairs playing games in my rook, my mom and her wife all of a sudden start screaming my name, so I sprint upstairs to see what was happening and I see my grandma on the floor. I look at her and ask her, "What happened? Did you fall?" She responds with, "I didn't fall, I just fell over." This is when I go and check my Ring camera to see what happens. I watch the video and she seems to be falling in slow motion. So in a panic I take her blood pressure and make sure she didn't have a stroke. But it looked like her pulse was normal but her blood pressure was extremely high. I call 911 to take no risk considering she was just in an accident and she's on dialysis. The paramedics come and talk to her and she seems very out of it and not her usual talkative self. The paramedics do what they have to do and eventually take my grandma to the ER. While all this is happening, my mom is still high and is paranoid that I was gonna get in trouble for giving her THC brownies. We live in a legal state, so I call my sister to help me and she's confused on what's happening and why our mom wasn't calling her or talking to her currently. I assure my sister our mom is currently not in the right state of mind to help us currently and we're more likely on our own. We, my mom, her wife, my sister, and I, all finally get to the ER where my grandma is and my mom still looks extra paranoid. I finally tell my sister what's happening and she is laughing her ass off. Finally the doctor allows one person in, so I let my sister go while I take my mom and her wife home. I get home and make sure my mom and her wife are good while I go downstairs and try and play some games while I wait to hear from my sister about what is happening. She eventually texts me and that my grandma was projectile vomiting everywhere, and that's when it clicked for me that she had ate one also. My sister calls me 30 seconds after texting me asking the same thing and we bother figure it out. She lets the doctor know but they still have to rule out any possibility of head trauma because of the accident. Another 2 or so hours go by and they finally finish up her test but won't release her because her blood pressure was still too high. Eventually they release her after another 30 minutes and we take her home and to bed. My grandma, thinking we just weren't allowing her to have any of my brownies, had snuck downstairs while me and my mom were gone getting her car and ate a whole THC brownies, but as of currently we're all getting a laugh out of it and she's sleeping it off. TLDR. Grandma got into an accident while I was making THC brownies. Mom knowingly ate partial weed brownie and was throwing up all night, and Grandma unknowingly ate weed brownie and was sent to the ER. Ada for not treating my niece and nephews as well as my own child after their mom went to prison for killing their dad. It's really complicated, but my sister went to prison in February of this year for killing her husband. They had 3 teenage children together, and my sister begged me to take her children in together. They had a meeting with a social worker who said if I didn't take them they would be split up and sent to different group homes/foster homes. Probably group homes though. The kids wanted to stay together and live with me, so here they are. I'll be honest. Myself and my husband did not want them at all. Kids are expensive and a lot of work, and my sister and her husband didn't do the best job at raising their kids. So they aren't very well behaved. I get a small stipend for being their foster parent, but it barely covers their food. They all eat like they're starving. It doesn't cover clothes, Christmas presents, etc. Over the summer I encouraged the kids to find jobs so they can pay for their school clothes in the fall, because I'd be giving them $50 each to take to the Walmart and pick out a few clothing articles with. They were pissed because my son won't have to work for his school clothes. I explained that taking them on wasn't exactly something I planned for, and if they aren't okay with working for their clothes and things they can try living somewhere else and see if things are better. Maybe at the group home they'll give them hundreds of dollars to take to the mall like they want. Probably not, but what do I know? The kids all wanted to play sports this school year and I encouraged them to do so. Their school has fundraising for kids who can't afford to pay the fees. Selling chocolate bars. I encouraged them to do that, and offered to drive them to different neighborhoods so they can sell them. The kids were mad because I expected them to do fundraising when my son doesn't have to. My son does work but puts all of his money from his job in his college fund. They're also mad because he has a college fund and they don't. I explained to them that it's only natural that I would treat my son differently than I would my nieces and nephews, and that I took them in at their and their mother's request. Not because I wanted 3 more children of my own. They're really mad at my honesty, but I'm not going to dance around the subject with them. I have no problem treating them the way any aunt treats their nieces and nephews. I get them a gift on their birthday and Christmas, and I'll feed them while they're here. But I'm not their mom. I feel like it's not fair for them to be so angry at me when I didn't cause this circumstance, and I'm already doing way more than I'm obligated to do. Ada? Edit. A lot of people are telling me I'd be better off letting them go into foster care if the kids aren't happy with me. Upon discussing things with my husband, we've contacted the kids' social worker and she will be finding placements for them and picking them up tomorrow. Hopefully someone else can do a better job than I have. I only decided to have 1 child and I think having 4 in the home, 3 of them being very difficult children, has been too much. My sister won't be happy, but maybe she shouldn't have poisoned her husband.